Audio on demand from Vision Christian Media.
Make sure that you deepen your connection. That house, the foundation, is built on an intimate knowledge of each other. And I don't know, do you know your partner's favourite teacher? Do you know what their hopes and dreams are?
Many couples experience marriage burnout because of pressures and daily aggravations. Encouragingly, some people make the vital investment in counselling, where both are willing to do the work and to both make the needed changes to improve their relationship. Whilst there are others that do not make that effort or seek the help they need. Unfortunately, in a post-pandemic world, we've only seen this increase. Joanne Wilson is our guest today, who's a counsellor and a neuro-psychotherapist. Joanne will be providing an overview of some of the common relationship mistakes that she has seen in her practice over the last few years and some of the solutions. That's Joanne Wilson with my wife Kate and myself, Brett Ryan, for Focus on the Family, Australia. And a special thanks to our friends at Salt FM and the Sunshine Coast for recording Joanne's side of the chat while we are here in Melbourne. Well, welcome to the program.
It's an honour to be with you.
Well, Joanne, you're a good friend of Focus, and we've done a number of different projects, and we're so thrilled that we've got another opportunity to talk about some of these big issues. And we at Focus obviously get people contacting us with relationship issues, but you are a clinical practitioner, and you're getting to see these things. Have you seen an increase post-pandemic?
I certainly have seen an intensity in the counselling room. So prior to the pandemic, we were, seeing conflict and communication being a very common denominator when it comes to undoing couples. However, as we all experienced, including myself, the increased stress that had us turning up in our relationships as not the best versions of ourselves. So I think there has been a ripple effect. But to be honest, the trend now is probably heading more to financial stress. I think we have recovered, people are back at work. We're even being encouraged to be in the workplace where that has us connected again. But yes, the finances tend to be part of the major stress for couples at this time.
And in fact, interestingly enough, it is the number one, as far as a lot of research has gone, as the cause of conflict.
Absolutely.
Over many years, even pre-pandemic. And
yes.
So it's interesting that during the pandemic, other issues kind of came out and now it's back to finance again, in line with inflation and everything else that's going on.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting we always think, that we're arguing about not having enough money. Yes, it definitely puts stress on it. But what it does bring out is your differing values around money and how we approach them and what that means to our status or identity, and our family of origin comes into it. So there's always
Well, that's where I'd like
layers.
to start. That family of origin is a great segue. The fact is that, we run marriage retreats and marriage conferences, and it's an incredible privilege that we have at Focus. But a common theme is often their family of origin. Where do they come from? Where do they get that from? And are you seeing this in the clinical practice?
Every single time I meet with a beautiful person who has the courage to arrive at the counselling room, there is an element of the influences that have brought them there that day. Even we could have had the most amazing family that were very well connected. There's often a bit of disconnection that can fuel addictions, or even just the choices then that we've made. I guess we can't blame our families for everything. So yeah, I think more often than not, however, there's trauma from neglect, abuse, from all the different attachment styles or lack of, that can have us feeling ill-equipped to be able to have that knowledge and wisdom on how to contribute to a relationship. So it makes absolute sense when we haven't experienced that true love and respect and secure attachment. That's from Bowlby's theory of attachment, if anyone wants to look that up. But it makes sense that then how do we know how to nurture our partner and what we deserve in our relationship, which is another interesting point. Some people just turn up to say, is this normal? Is this what I should be experiencing?
Yeah.
People will often look to counselling as a sounding board as to what is normal, what do I deserve? And that's a beautiful space to come from.
So if they do come to you with a bit of a mess from their backgrounds, what are some steps that people can take to help improve that?
Well, it depends on what it is. Sometimes people need to forgive. That's a big aspect.
I'm thinking that's a pretty important one.
Forgive themselves and forgive
their parents or whoever.
Everybody, whoever it was. Yeah, so definitely that's a good reminder, Brett, that we often need to forgive ourselves for our subsequent behaviour. I certainly need to forgive myself a lot for the mistakes that I make as a flawed human. However, so forgiveness. But I think it's important to delineate the difference between reconciliation and forgiveness. So sometimes there are members of your family that it's not actually healthy to reconcile with, but it is absolutely paramount to forgive. And so I think that's a tough topic, particularly with people with different worldviews. I know Christians definitely understand that. Well, I can't say they definitely understand it, but they're aware of the importance of forgiveness, and Jesus forgave us, and that ability that we do have to free ourselves from toxic resentment. And so if there is that element of trauma, that's definitely a great place to start. But it's not just to come in and decide to forgive. We talk about 70 times 7 is your daily intention to forgive. And I think that indicates how difficult it can be to forgive someone for some pretty intense trauma that goes on out there. So that's my step one.
I think it's really important to mention that a lot of people say, well, you have to forgive. But there are some things that, in abuse or narcissism that has caused the other person to be in a really toxic environment. We're not talking about just forgiving them and putting up with it. We're only talking about in a more typical setting where we do mess up. And as you said, we're flawed humans and we're going to make mistakes, and your partner is going to make mistakes, but to show grace and so you can move forward. But with even regard to the family of origin, are you also seeing more recent things that a partner may have not declared or a spouse has not declared and been truly honest? And so they haven't been able to move forward because there's things that they're holding back, and then their spouse may find out, and then they haven't processed that as well.
And the thing is that these things can manifest. I know, for an example, a client recently, she had a fall, and so she wasn't able to be at work. It changed a lot of her identity about her important job at the time, but as well, it triggered a whole lot of trauma from her past and her upbringing. So it can be just the most unexpected event in your life that then you behave or respond in a way that you least expected it, and then that can manifest in your relationship and brings up a lot of things that have happened in your past. So it's a good point, Brett, is to be completely honest and authentic in your relationship right from the beginning, and join your partner in a union as you are, with all our flaws. And obviously we want to put our best foot forward when the oxytocin is flowing in the first 6 to 12 months of hooking that person in, and you want them to love you and like you. But I think being able to be really authentic is an important aspect before you proceed, because sadly it can manifest later. Not saying it always will, but
Well, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, well, let's face it. When you're busy and you're, as you were talking about, being in an important job or just having a lot of kids or just running, you don't have the headspace for those things to come up. And we've noticed, and I'm going to ask you if you've noticed, if you're seeing that more in people in around the 50-year age group, because all of a sudden their kids are leaving and now they've got time, and all of a sudden the things from their past are all starting to come up.
Absolutely. I would say from 40s onwards, it seems to, it comes out into the light. I was actually just thinking about this other day about why is that? And maybe that is the reason that you've got more time and life is a little bit slower, but not necessarily. Like, you can have that interruption from an injury, or just someone from your past says something, or there's a video circulating or something like that. Like, I think it definitely, I also wonder as well, is if we have a sense of what is wrong and what is right, we seem to be more comfortable in ourselves. And then there's a bit of emotional clutter in the background that you have a sense of identity. I think as we age, we become very comfortable with who we are, but there's those elements from the past that need to be cleared out as such. And when you're in your 20s and 30s, you're in that, exciting stage. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm probably not articulating that very well, but yeah.
Well, the other thing is that it's very easy for many of our listeners right now are saying, well, it's all very well for you. You're a psychotherapist, you're a counsellor, you can share your feelings and emotions, but that's not everyone's story. It's not as easy to talk about our feelings and our emotions. So what advice would you give to someone who's saying, I'm not wired that way?
Oh, look, I'm actually right in there with everybody else. I think it's fabulous that I could be a psychotherapist and I could talk to you. However, plonk me in front of my husband and I'm just as faulted as everybody else, because the key aspect of that is emotions are involved. When if I'm upset about something, or I even want to ask my husband for something, because we're so emotionally connected, something seems to happen that it often doesn't land in the way we do want it, because it could be I'm just lazy, I'm rushed, I just kind of like blurt it out as I'm running along with, the children's bags and just trying to get through my day, and I'll just dump something on him or deliver it in a way that isn't helpful. So there's that laziness aspect, but also there's that part of us that we really need to slow it down if there's something emotional that you're trying to deliver. And I always recommend if you need to, or you find it difficult to talk about feelings, like scaffold it for your partner. An example of, I have these incredibly intelligent engineer type blokes that come in, stereotypical speaking here, and they're just so logical, but ask them to talk about their feelings, and that can be quite a struggle. It doesn't mean that they're not intelligent, but it's really, really difficult. And if you add in some family of origin where you weren't encouraged in Australia to talk about your feelings, you're up against it. So I recommend to those people just to tell your partner, I'm trying to tell you something. Can you just stay with me for a moment?
Yeah.
And it can be difficult when you're in conflict and they completely disagree. But I'll use that word scaffold. Just let them know that you're having a go, that you really want to express yourself, but this doesn't come natural. Yeah.
That's really good. Our guest today is Joanne Wilson, along with my wife Kate, and I'm Brett Ryan for Focus on the Family, Australia.
The Word for today is Australia's most widely read daily devotional, designed to give you practical teaching to keep you focused on your relationship with Jesus. Read it online or subscribe to the free printed edition at thewordfortoday.com.au.
Well, welcome back. Our guest today is counsellor and neuro-psychotherapist Joanne Wilson. She's our guest today for Focus on the Family, Australia. Now, often when Kate and I are doing a marriage conference or a seminar, we often refer to, the old real estate adage. It's location, location, location. But for a successful relationship, it's really communication, communication, communication. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Yes, that has always been, since I have commenced in the counselling room working with couples. Communication is definitely the key on so many levels, and we are miraculously and uniquely created, and we come from it at all different angles, or some not at all. So you're right.
Yeah, it's interesting to stop and think that we see communication as, say, something like common sense. We should know how to do it. There's like a perspective that, well, we all talk. And we see that as communication. But when you run it through your filters, so all your experiences, your family of origin, which we've talked earlier, the communication can become very bogged down.
It can become bogged down in conflict, and people are usually ill-equipped. They're the ones that I see. Not everyone is ill-equipped, but definitely that's what people are seeking help for. But if I mentioned in the previous part that we become lazy. I think as I tend to find as time goes on, we are less intentional about how we deliver feedback. and also how it's received. So I think that's really important. And I say, if you were to speak to your next door neighbor, or how you address your best friend, I think you should speak to your intimate partner the same way. And that should be the ground rule. Yes, we have our lovely little nuances in an intimate relationship and your inside jokes, and you can take shortcuts. But on an ongoing basis, you should be intentionally communicating with respect and kindness, and which we forget. We just,
You're a prolific blogger, and you've written lots of great articles. And one of the ones you mentioned of a common relationship issue was a lack of meaningful communication. What's that?
That is the lack of intentional time for first of all. So I guess a really quick remedy for that one is allocating 15 minutes per day. And that could seem like a really long time for some couples, particularly with new babies. I heard that some families or couples speak about 6 minutes a day, which I thought at the time when I had 3 boys under 3.5, I thought, yeah, I could see that. By the time you just say, who's got whose lunchbox and where are you going, what time will you be home, and then we all flop into bed. And you can imagine how the communication is eroded, the relationship's eroded, and particularly for a female, our communication needs aren't met, if I was to look at that stereotypically. And also that is just as important for men, but sometimes in a different way. So, meaningful communication is intentional. But that's why as well, even focus on the family, you've got a list of conversation starters. And I've created a little box set that I use in the counselling room and give to couples and say, make sure that you deepen your connection. That house, the foundation is built on an intimate knowledge of each other. And I don't know, do you know your partner's favorite teacher? Do you know what their hopes and dreams are? Do you know what was the most embarrassing moment? Like, they seem quirky and silly, but I think it's a beautiful gift to be able to offer that genuine wonder and inquiry to your partner to make them feel truly special. Now that's meaningful communication.
That's so good. Now, you mentioned the word intimacy, so I think many of our listeners will start leaning in a little bit more when we talk about intimacy, but it's not necessarily sexual intimacy. We're just talking about intimacy, that emotional connection, but, even the small little touches and, the kind words, those little things that make all the difference. What are you seeing as a common mistake that many couples get into, that habit that they're not as intentional with their intimacy?
I think it's that common mistake is where we show love in a way that our partner doesn't feel love. And I guess that gets back to the beautiful concept from the 90s of the good old 5 love languages. So intimacy is enjoyed by everyone in different ways. And so if you are that touchy-feely, cuddly person that might have been raised in a family that encouraged that was your norm, it can be quite confronting to pair up with someone who they don't really appreciate that so much. That it's different to sexual intimacy. That's a different topic. But from a day-to-day intimacy experience, it's finding out exactly, do they appreciate to hear that they are beautiful, that they're great, caring husband, you love certain aspects of what they do for you. That's that words of affirmation. So I think when it comes to intimacy, find out exactly what your partner appreciates, because you can go through your entire marriage and not really have it land. So, I kind of wouldn't say to everybody, oh, you must hold hands and you must cuddle each other on the couch, because some couples just aren't like that. Yeah.
It'd be hard for people to understand where they say, you're prepared to touch me, when we make love, but you won't hold my hand.
Yeah.
What do you say to a couple where they come in like that? Because I'm sure you've seen it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Like, for example, I had one that comes to mind, a female, and she really was not comfortable with the whole touchy-feely thing. And it was almost, I say, you got to fake it till you make it. If you want to pair up with this husband of yours who loves to come home and have a big cuddle, then you need to really appreciate that aspect about him. That's how he feels love. And that's part of the deal. But however, husband needs to be aware in this instance how challenging that is for her. She didn't grow up in it. Like, even this woman, she really found it difficult to cuddle her kids. She's like, I just don't like people hanging off of me. I just don't like it. And I think I have to respect that. I don't recall any trauma in her family. She just wasn't that type of person. However, she showed love in being there for all different ways. And so it's a bit fake it till you make it, but be aware that it can be challenging for your
Yeah.
partner, but that's part of the deal.
Another one of your blogs mentioned the word jealousy.
Mm.
And you're seeing this more and more, unfortunately, in the clinical practice.
And I guess coming to mind, everyone just goes, oh, you're jealous that somebody looked at you or you looked at somebody else. But that's not really what you're talking about, is it?
No, I found it's quite fascinating. It's not jealousy about, well, that definitely does happen about other people looking at your partner, but it's jealous of your partner. And this can come through in many elements. Yes, I never thought of this one until it kept presenting in the counselling room recently. However, you could be jealous that your partner has more downtime than you or allocates more downtime. So you've got the female who's maybe vacuuming under his feet and she's strung out, she's looking after the kids, and he's allocated time after a 12-hour day to sit on the couch and watch the news and some sport. That's jealousy, or you could call that's a little bit unfair. Is it, I guess, where are the rules here with all different couples? But I think it's just worth analysing yourself. Is that fair? Do you need to communicate this to your partner? Where do you sit with that? It could also be jealousy of their family of origin, that they've been gifted with a beautiful, loving and kind family, whereas you may have been neglected, you are estranged from your family, and that can manifest in jealousy of your partner in that way. So, an unusual one, but definitely it's prevalent in the counselling room.
And how would that come out? If they had the two different backgrounds and they look jealous, they're jealous of the one who had the settled background. How does that kind of come out?
An example is
displayed.
Yes, the one who may have come from a more compromised background, they might be rather resentful to turn up to their partner's family gathering. So they always get together. They have a massive birthday gathering for all the nephews and nieces, and they all carry on and have a great time. However, the one from the family who didn't enjoy that, they don't want to go. It's not like they don't want to enjoy that, but they kind of feel that, well, I didn't have that, so I don't want to go to yours because it's kind of not fair. It doesn't seem like real, but it does actually happen. Or
so they disconnect.
Yeah, they disconnect and they create conflict even. Like they don't know, they feel ill-equipped on how to enjoy family relationships where we have to forgive each other continually, or we have to put up with each other's, the in-laws' quirks.
Quirks.
Yeah, that's part of a family.
Once someone who's identified that could be an issue, what do they do with that?
They express and come to the realization of their hurt in front of their other partner. So it's about exploring that. As a good practitioner is able to go to those deeper levels with that person, I would say from a compromised background. So we sort of talk about in terms of enriched or compromised. And it's about understanding the level of intensity that they can experience that then manifests in a relationship or marriage where they're missing out on their partner's family. Like it could be an absolute gift for them to partake in a family that they never had the benefit of enjoying. And so I think when we understand the sense of betrayal or the level of guilt, it could be, I don't know, I can't speak on behalf of everyone's emotions, but that's often a common one, even embarrassment. So I think it's just being aware of what's happening to you. And it is never too late to begin to then start to heal from that. And that's such a beautiful privilege in counselling, is that you're not stuck with that. Our behaviours, we are forgiven. I treat everybody, no matter what their past misdemeanors are, we are all the same. I'm no better than the people who present with challenges than what I've done. I might have made, different mistakes, but it is such a thing. And I think if people are holding back from having to talk about their family of origin or mistakes that they've made, I absolutely encourage you to clear that out because that is such a beautiful move forward to freedom. And it manifests in your body as well. So we look at the health of your mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah. This is so good. And we are really only just scratching the surface. And I know I say that often, and many of your listeners go, "He always says that." But I really would like to have further conversation because this is really helpful. This is going to be a real benefit. So would you like to come back and we'll talk some more of the common relationship mistakes that people make?
I would love to contribute some more on this topic.
That's great. If you would like to find out more about Joanne Wilson, you can go to her website, therelationshiprejuvenator.com. That's therelationshiprejuvenator.com. Now, if you're listening to this and something has triggered something regarding your relationship and you would like someone to talk to or to provide some extra resources, you can go to our website at families.org.au and just go to our website that says Need Help. Our free pastoral care service and resources have only been made available because of the generosity of our faithful partners. We are so grateful to those that financially give and pray for the ministry. Please consider partnering with us so we can help more Australian families thrive in Christ. And thank you for joining us today on behalf of Kate and the rest of the team. I'm Brett Ryan, inviting you to tune in to part 2 of this conversation for Focus on the Family, Australia.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.